The last question then, Robert, though, is when you realize that phenomenon exists, how easy is it to manipulate? I mean, if outside forces came in, whoever they might be, and they started giving money through Patreon or honestly YouTube Super Chat or any of these things, and they started giving at enough levels for the creators to notice, it would.
He's literally saying J Mac is a Russian agent right now.
I was gonna say, J Mac, are you really secretly the Koch brothers? This whole time, J Mac, are you really secretly the Koch brothers and we didn't know this? Like, what a preposterous claim! Like, oh yes, there's all these insidious backers through the super chats.
Jay, how much is Putin paying you? You be honest with us. Be honest.
Jay, you can tell us if you're really a Russian agent. Okay, look, I have Russian ancestry. I'll be sympathetic. Okay, it's totally fine. Jay, just tell us the truth.
Lake Tahoe, 20 years ago, Jay. Where were you?
Where were you, Jay?
Do you wear a 10-gallon Texas hat?
Jay, did you teach Adam and his friend to play craps all those years ago?
Tell us.
Was it all a ruse? I'd believe that.
Could be.
It seemed that it would be if the creators are not really strong and principled and haven't been around a long time or whatever, or they could be new and principled. But if they're not really, if they don't have a moral core, it would.
Sitch. Do we have a moral core?
Of course not. Because we're a comedy show. There's no morality. Here's this comedy.
Do we have a moral core?
No, there's no morality.
Please tell me.
I like Shank complaining about other people not having a moral core.
According to critical race theory, Jank, it really doesn't matter if you have a moral core because everyone could have a moral core and the system could be immoral.
Exactly.
Don't you know how this works?
And you're participating in the system, and thus are also immoral. So there you go. Can't win.
Jank, come on. We're playing 4D chess over here. You're playing checkers.
I mean, Chank's basically white, if you think about it, right? Look at him. He's white. He's evil.
I don't know. I don't know. Definitely white adjacent. I'll give you that.
Look at him. He's in between two whitey whites, and he's barely a shade off Adam. Okay, he's just as guilty for the sins of white people as anyone else. I'm just saying what critical race is.
Careful, Sitch. You're going to start a civil war here. Okay? Careful now. Careful.
I'll be careful.
We don't want to start a civil war, you know.
Here at the Sitch Adam show, we do not endorse any civil wars of any kind. Okay.
Dude, it's first of all, if we haven't mentioned it before, which we have like a lot, I do not think we're even close to a civil war. I think Tim Pool is. I don't buy that.
Yeah,
that civil war nonsense. Yeah, I think Tim Pool is reading too many Huffington Post stories for me.
The problem is, and I get into arguments with just a lot of people that consume normal news. They feel the same way because the news is structured to fearmonger and to outrage you. And so everyone feels like we're on the edge of like the biggest civil war the country's ever faced. I'm like, okay, we've gone through much hard. I mean, you remember? Well, people don't, remember.
Remember,
but there was a time period where was it Dan Rather was at the DNC conference and getting beaten up by the police, and the police were beating up reporters at the DNC in like the 60s or stuff. Like,
dear God, Dan Rather got maced, beaten up.
Yeah, not even maced. He was getting beat by like nightsticks and stuff. Like, but
my goodness.
Yeah, but it's just like it's hard because I think of what. Yeah, it was 1968. Dan Rather at the Democratic National Committee or Convention. But it's so crazy to me because I just think of like the time period that my parents went through, where people were literally being drafted into a war that they didn't want to fight in.
Oh yeah, yeah.
To be sent to the other side of the world to go fight in the jungle, and potentially die.
Yes.
Or just kill people and all the others. Like, that's such a crazy time period. You had, the civil rights movement was like on fire. You finally like blacks were advocating for equal rights and getting equal rights under the law. You had all the kids were freaking out because they felt like their parents were selling them out to die for some
Yeah.
hopeless cause. People were saying like, don't trust anyone over 30. Like things just seemed so crazy back then. This was, right before that, you had the Cuban Missile Crisis. It just seems like my parents went through such crazier times than anything that we're going through right now.
Yeah.
Except for, obviously COVID is like a world-changing event.
COVID is a big event.
Right. But in terms of like civil unrest and stuff, I mean, yeah, the summer of the BLM riots and Antifa, but even that just seems so
George Floyd.
Yeah, that seems like it pales in
Forced
comparison to what my parents went
vaccinations.
through. So I don't know.
Imagine like people are losing their shit over forced vaccinations, which I'm not for forced vaccinations. I think, it should be a personal decision. But the whole idea is you're not going to tell me what to do. They literally could draft you and deport your ass to Vietnam to fight against fucking.
No, that's a great point. Is comparing forced vaccinations to the draft. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, guess
what
where you're
happens
working?
when you get drafted? What happens when you go in the military? They give you a bunch of vaccinations.
Yeah, forced vaccinations are first up.
Right.
Not only that, how you like your haircut? Because this is your new one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, it's crazy. That's why to me, this idea that we're like on the brink of destruction, it just doesn't. We've been through a lot worse and we survived.
Yeah.
So that's my only point.
Some people don't like when we say that. I do understand that it is.
Well, you should be optimistic. You should be happy. We'll survive. America will survive.
But like doom and gloom is fun. I got to admit it. Like a little apocalyptic talk.
Well,
I mean,
we
it
all
does
want to feel like we're the adventurers. We're the protagonists of the movie. We're all living on the edge of the most craziest times ever.
Yeah.
So sure, I understand.
I mean, if I think really hard, I mean, it is interesting if the vaccine does have this tracking component to it.
Gives us superpowers.
This mind control tracking component.
There you go. JH for $20 says, do you think the guy in Birkenstocks will be going to rich white neighborhoods more or black neighborhoods? And how would progressives feel about that? That's a good point. That's a very good point. They're going to complain that the social workers are all racist. That's true.
Yeah. Birkenstocks in the whitey neighborhood.
Yep. Dodie for 20 pounds. Thank you, Dodie. Says, big thank you for the content. Well, big thank you for the donation.
Seemed that it would be fairly easy to manipulate them by giving a little bit here and a little bit there, let alone a lot here and a lot there. Not at the Coke level money, but man, you see a couple of super chats and Patreons go in a certain direction when you say one thing and then leave you when you say another thing. That might set up an incentive that could work really well in manipulating tons of creators.
This is true, but this is so dumb.
I know, it's totally
This is
dumb.
literally true of everything that exists in the world, okay? This is true of the mainstream media. You think that if they hire some new person for a show and that person all of a sudden starts getting bad ratings because they start speaking up against the narrative, whether it be the left or the right narrative, depending on what network they're on, you think that their network isn't going to respond to that?
Yeah.
Of course they will.
This can't be real.
This is ridiculous. Do you think the Young Turks, if they notice their viewership is increasing, they don't say, oh, we need to do more of this content, or if it's decreasing, they say, oh, we need to do less of this content? You don't think that everyone has these ideas, everyone is influenced by these factors and responds to it? Like, it's not just Tim Pool. Like, this is totally insane.
The Young Turks has a subscription model where you pay a monthly subscription, and I'm sure they have thousands of people that pay the monthly subscription for it. They only have 83 patrons on Patreon, but I think they do a ton of business through their website. So everything he's saying applies to him.
Yeah, like if they do stuff and then they lose a bunch of their subscribers, they're going to react to it. They're going to change their behavior to it.
Right.
Sure.
If they come out and say, listen, you've got this Charlottesville thing all wrong. You see, Trump was not praising the neo-Nazis. He was talking about the statue issue. He said there were good people on both sides of the statue issue, which we disagree with him on that. But obviously they're not neo-Nazis. And then his Patreon drops off the charts. He's going to be like, well, maybe they were neo-Nazis actually. Right? I mean, he's in the same boat. He's in the exact same boat.
Definitely.
I'm sure they pushed the Charlotte's conspiracy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, he's basically back. He's repurposed the Russian conspiracy right here in front of our eyes, right?
The Russian super chatters.
They are.
Yes. I think you're very much right. I think the areas, the ways, and this is.
And you know what? Besides just the viewership, what about when shitheads like the guy they're talking to, who write awful articles that say that YouTube is radicalizing people down the alt-right pipeline, which then forces YouTube to heavy-handedly start censoring and monkeying with the algorithm. That kind of has a big influence too, Shank. Okay.
Yeah, huge influence.
A little bit above my pay grade reporting wise, but I think we have created a system for mass distribution, one that has very little to no regulation, let alone anything even resembling a gatekeeper. And that can be, look, that can be good and bad in all kinds of different ways. But
now he's just totally winging it. I'm so glad we're getting close to the end of this video. He's like, oh.
I like that the guy who works for the gatekeeper is mad that the other people don't have enough gates being kept.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We need more regulate. Basically what he's saying is we need more regulation. Right. We need a way that we can deplatform more right-wingers. That's what he wants.
You're right.
Anytime you create a new means of communication, clever people, moneyed people, and clever people with money are going to figure out a way to use it to their best advantage. And I think, again, I'll be a little cagey here. It's something that I'm absolutely looking into. It is the very beginning of my reporting process, and so.
Oh, see, he's setting out for his next hit piece right here. Okay, he's like, I don't want to give too much away. I'm actually working on my next hit piece to talk about how Patreon and Subscribestar are really pushing people down the alt-right pipeline.
No, is that it?
There you go. That's what it sounds like.
You sure it's not like Steven Crowder's next in line, or
maybe? Well, no, he's talking about funding specifically. So.
Oh.
Good dude, that's a good guess. But it's not something I.
Or maybe he's saying he's researching evil Russian super chatters who are influencing YouTubers. I want to see that article.
It's not something I can even begin to start talking about, but I'll just be coy and I'll say, yes, I think you are right. This is an area that is very much ripe for a great deal more reporting.
And by the way, look, no matter where anybody's ideology is, we're fair. So having read your piece, I would be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah, you're laughing your ass off.
He just said, no matter what anyone's ideology is, we're fair.
Yeah.
He just said that the TYT is fair.
Yeah, I know. It's hilarious. It's hysterical. Why do you think we're watching this video?
Oh my God.
These are the most unfair, uncharitable people on YouTube.
TYT says we're fair. We're fair and balanced, guys. Yeah. Okay.
We're the all conservatives are racist channel. Okay. We're fair.
Look, all the people who voted for Donald Trump did so because he is very blatant with his racism. But we're fair.
Exactly.
We don't care about your politics. We're fair.
You voted for Trump because you wanted lower taxes? No, you're a misogynist.
Tim Pool spreading misogyny and racism, but we're fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fair and balanced. Okay.
The old fair and balanced grift.
Instances. But Tim seems to have found like a right-wing misogynistic audience that's relatively real. And
you just said we're fair.
I know. I want that whole.
Just said we're fair.
We had to listen to this whole clip just to hear it all come out.
And by the way, look, no matter where anybody's ideology is, we're fair. So having read your piece, I would be surprised if that was the case for Tim. I would not be surprised in other instances. But Tim seems to have found like a right-wing misogynistic audience that's relatively real and is just serving them exactly what they want.
There you go. We're so fair. We're fair.